My name is Christian Basil. I am the host of the Legend of the Traveling Tardis radio show, and let me bring up the team here. First of all, let me bring up our special guest. Now, for some of you who may not be familiar with the 1996 TV movie starring Paul McGann, or maybe have seen it and it's been a while, this is the guy who we're interviewing today. That is a lovely picture.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, right? And you got the jelly baby, too. I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you. That's what he looks like today, and that's what he looks like with the TARDIS. And is that Eric Roberts? Holy
that cow. Isn't being molested by Eric. Eric's molesting me right there. Yeah.
I hate to say it, but out of the three, you seem to have aged the best. You know?
Oh, God.
I like Yee Jee. I like
Yee Jee's doing just fine, I got to tell you.
I know.
No problem there.
She's got gray hair there. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce our special guest today, Jeremy Radick. How are you doing there, Jeremy?
Good. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Jeremy, how did you get this role? How did you get the role? And the character is Gareth.
Yeah. Well, that's a funny story, actually. So it's going to be a bit of a that's just cruel to show a 20-year-old version of yourself all the time.
You don't change. No, you look exactly the same, though. You haven't changed.
This took all day, Christian. This took all day. There's makeup. It's just, I went to bed at 4:00 in the afternoon yesterday. I've been prepped. I started acting when I was pretty young, but I'd been a lifelong Doctor Who fan around the same time that I started acting. So I was a pretty big fan. And I don't know where you guys fall on the whole history of fandom, but back in the early 90s, it was really hard, especially in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, to have any idea what was going on with the show. It had been off the air for a long time. And at that precise time, I was working on a festival of one-act plays written by teenagers in high school. And I was helping to produce it and stage manage it. And one of the actors came in and he said, I auditioned for the weirdest thing today. It's some movie about like Sherlock Holmes in space, and he's in a vacuum cleaner closet, or I don't know what the hell it is. It's really weird. I've never heard of it, and apparently it's some big thing. And I had a million things on my mind, and I was just like not paying attention. And then about 5 minutes later, I went, wait, was it called Doctor Who? And he goes, yeah, that's what it was called. It's called Doctor Who. Apparently it's a big thing. And so having been a fan of the show since I was conscious as a human being, I immediately called my agent and I said, I'll be a chair, I'll be a potted plant. If I'll be, just hiding in the background. You can put me behind a curtain. I don't care. And my agent said, well, I didn't know that, it's kind of in your wheelhouse, but I didn't submit you for it for a variety of reasons. And I'm like, well, we'll talk about firing you later. No, I was joking. I said, listen, whatever you can do, whatever you can do, just give him a call. And so he called the casting director, who had said, and I don't know how well you guys know casting works, but Jeffrey Sachs was the director, and they don't want him to see everybody under the sun. So the casting director brings in a wide variety of people that they think will fit for the role. They take what the agents submit, they narrow it down, they do a callback, maybe even another callback, narrow it down, so that when the director comes in, they're seeing 5 people tops, right? And so at that point, the casting director said, well, I've narrowed it down. I don't really want to bring in a bunch of people, and it's just I didn't really think about bringing them in for this. And my agent, to his great credit, said, listen, how many actors have you had to explain this show to? And she's like, oh my God, I have to explain it to all of them. They know, because this is 96. Not a lot of people really knew about it, particularly in North America. And he said, you'll never have to explain it to him. He's been watching it his whole life. She goes, okay, fine. You know what? This is when they're taking place. Tell him to come in. I can't guarantee I'll see him. Tell him to come in. So I came in, and they did see me, and luckily they cast me for it. And ironically, the guy that I had seen, the guy who told me about it, who auditioned for it, was auditioning. He was the last one auditioning that day, and then they squeezed me in right after. So he was just like, hey, I'll drive you back to town after this. We'll go back together. And that was an awkward car ride, where both of us were hoping that we would get the gig. So yeah, so then they called me a couple of weeks later and told me I got it, and I did a very big happy dance, and that's how I joined. That's how I was cast, and it was pretty amazing. So only I think Jeffrey Sachs knew I was a big fan, and Philip Siegel knew I was a big fan, but I didn't tell anybody else because there's nothing weirder for Paul McGann than having to act across someone who is losing his mind quietly. I was also a huge fan of With Noel and I, which is a terrific Paul McGann movie. And so I could quote that movie. And so it was like, just play it cool. This is not a good thing to just be like, on the set. So I played it very, very cool, and so like none of them knew I was this huge fan. I did get a really nice letter shortly after we wrapped from Mr. Siegel. He sent me a very nice letter thanking me for being in the production, which is not a typical thing that happens in North American productions, particularly for people that shoot, you know, a 1 or 2 day part on a movie. So it was really nice. It had the diamond logo on it, and he basically said, you know, we look forward to Doctor Who airing as a new series on Fox in the fall, and that didn't happen, but it was a really nice letter. So, and I actually think in a lot of ways, the stuff it did well is done in the new series, and the stuff that it didn't do so well, the new series learned from as well. So it's a really important thing, and I get lots of people who come up to me to this day and say that that's what got them into Doctor Who.
How has fame changed you?
You'd have to ask someone who's famous. I'm not. I mean, I was an actor for about 25 years. So I started when I was 11. I did a lot of Canadian film and television, you know, as a kid and into my adulthood. And then I studied in New York, and I did theater for the last bit of my career mostly. And then just got tired. I got very tired of it. And so I was never like angrily tired of it. I just did it for 25 years and decided it was time to do something else. And, you know, so fame is not something that I've ever had to deal with, thank God. But it is nice that, you know, I mean, the people I work with sometimes now at my new job, they sometimes figure out, they go back and watch an X-Files or an episode of Psych or something like that, and then they see something that I have done. I was in a wide assortment of very bad movies. Oh, look at that, Psych. So I was in a wide assortment of very, very bad movies, and some of them are just egregious and, you know, come up here and there. So I mean, yeah, fame is not, you know, not a thing that really happens to me, but it is nice that something I've done, like I think X-Files, Doctor Who. There's also a little Canadian show I did called The Odyssey, which I still get asked about to this day, which no one's ever heard of that isn't Canadian and around my age. And though it's nice to have 3 things, right? Do you know, Dave? Do you know The Odyssey? There you go.
I not well. I know of it, but I don't. Yeah.
I think, you know, the Odyssey was great. That was a really fun show. It was a show about a kid who, a young boy went into a coma, and from falling from a treehouse. And when he's in the coma, struggling to kind of get well again, his brain kind of translates everything into this weird world where there's no adults. But there's a fascist dictatorship, and there's all this subtext and stuff like that. So it's kind of like Mad Max meets the Wonder Years in a weird sort of way. And it was really imaginative and really interesting. And I got to play the Robert Oppenheimer character of the scientist who gets used by it. It's such a weird thing to say about a show with 12-year-olds in it, and well, 15-year-olds in it. And it was really about the trials of growing up and being disillusioned and stuff. So I was really proud of that. I think that was a show that was consistely interesting.
As you're talking about it, I'm like, yes. I remember all of this. Yes. That was,
yeah.
It's like I can see it running through my head and going, oh yeah, okay.
Are you said you're out of the acting?
I'm out of acting now, but I'm actually I'm also a freelance comic book editor. So I edited the Image comic series Rose. So that was the ongoing series that I edited, which was written by Meredith Finch and art by Iguara. So you can pick that up and trade paperbacks, particularly right now if you're looking for something to tide you over for coronavirus at fine comic book shops and Amazon. So it's called Rose. It's a fantasy series, and it's just 3 short trades. It's really great little story.
Watch that finger, Jeremy.
I used the proper one.
You used the proper one.